Welcome to the Real Estate Corner. My name is Shad Boggany. I'm host of the Real Estate Corner. We're here every Tuesday from 6:15 to 7:15 every Tuesday on KWWJ 1360 or 96.9. We are going to be also doing our show here a little bit different than what I've done in the past. You know, millennials are the biggest generation ever. And we're finding all sorts of things about that generation. We've heard that they don't want to buy houses. They like smaller spaces. They don't want to deal with home ownership right now. We've heard all these things. So today I brought in Tony Holmes. Tony is a millennial, and Tony doesn't own a home, but I wanted to find out why. And I wanted to find out what his friends are telling him why they don't own. Let me give you a few statistics right quick. All first-time home buyers, 100% of them, their median age is 32 years old. Married couples, 57% of homeowners, first-time home buyers, their age is 32. Single females, 18% of first-time home buyers are 35. Unmarried couples, 16% of them are first-time home buyers, age 30. Single males, yeah, we're running behind as usual. 7% of first-time home buyers. Their average age is 31. Now, when we put all this together, keeping in mind the first-time home buyers, 100% of them are age 32. In the Black community, our average home ownership rate is right at 41%. Now, that tells me something's wrong here. It also tells me that the white community is at 67%. The Hispanic community is at 46%. The Asian community is at 57%, which makes up these numbers, but in our community, we're not there. And so I wanted to bring Tony in to talk about millennials in general, but also want to know why they are not buying homes, why they're not dabbling in the real estate market. Tony Holmes, welcome to the Real Estate Corner.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. And this is going to be a little bit different show because Tony's going to be interviewing me also to tell me what it's going to take for us to be able to purchase a home. And so what it's going to take for him to be able to purchase a home, but he's also going to tell me why his friends are not jumping in to buy homes. And he's going to give me some thoughts of where things are going. So it's going to be an interview. I'm normally not used to being interviewed here on the Real Estate Corner. I'm normally doing the interviewing, but we're going to do something a little bit different. I hope you appreciate it. This show is here every Tuesday from 6:15 to 7:15 on KWWJ. If you want to call in on our show, it's 281-837-2222. And so you can give us a call. We will take your questions and answers, and questions and your answers, and try to help you in the home ownership project. This show has been on the air 28 years. I've been doing the Real Estate Corner. And now we've moved to television, and we're doing radio and television. So at this time, oh, by the way, Tony, before I move, this is something in business you learn. You got to talk about your sponsors. This show is being sponsored by American Title, Charlene Clancy, and my favorite hardware store, Dixie Hardware Store, right near Cullen, right at the corner of Cullen and OST. Those are our two sponsors, and so I need to mention it because we couldn't do it without their support. So Tony, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
I started off giving the ages and about first-time home buyers. So tell me, what's happening in the millennials?
Well, it's awesome that you got me here. Appreciate you reaching out to our generation and getting a chance for us to be heard a little bit.
Right, because I'm listening too.
Yes.
I'm listening too.
Yeah, and so I'll first start off by saying that I run a nonprofit organization called the Millennial Community. So I represent hundreds of millennials out here in Houston.
Wow, okay. I got the right guess.
Yeah, you do. And we connect with other millennial organizations across the country as well to get insight to what they're thinking about in Atlanta and D.C. and different places. So I wanted to let you know that. Now, all the information that you're receiving today is my personal opinion, but I'll give you some of that. But first, I wanted to kind of define what millennials are in today's society, because there's a skewed definition of our age range, and our birth years. So
Okay.
our organization defines millennials as born between 1980 and 2000. We do that because there are some organizations and research groups that say 1981, 1983, and some that say 1999. All this is over the place. So we just gave it a basic 20-year definition of millennials.
Okay.
And with that being said, if you look at some of the stats that you had mentioned earlier on, if you looked at the median age of millennials today, we were technically born in 1990, which will make us about 27, 28 years old.
Okay.
So when I look at the stats to say, 35 years median age and 32 years median age, I would assume that we on the way to home ownership. We gonna be there. We just haven't reached that median peak age of millennials yet. But from my friends that I know and friends that I have known for years and people that I meet in the community that also are millennials, you're right. We not buying homes.
Why?
We are not buying homes.
Tell us why, because, we talk about this for the last 28 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked and talked. I've tried to move the needle on home ownership up. I've tried to move it, and I'll share this with you. 50 years ago, we're in the 50th year of fair housing, and this is the anniversary, 1968. We're at the same level of 1968 of home ownership as we were 50 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
We're more educated. We're making more money.
Wow.
We've got more million-dollar athletes. We got more people running corporations. But home ownership is not there. Even when we were at equal income, we're behind in home ownership. And so we're about 10, 15% behind in whites that are on equal pay. So tell us, why not? What's the problem?
I think you could point to so many different reasons why. I think you could look at the public education system. You could look at the fact that we are the most distracted generation as well.
Okay. When you say distracted, what do you mean, Tony?
I mean, even as I sit here looking at my phone as my notes, right? I see emails.
And I got paper.
Right. That's one thing, right? But I got emails coming through. I see text messages popping, flying off, and that makes me trigger to think about something that's irrelevant to what's happening right now. And I think that for our generation, we are constantly bombarded with information. Some of it's incorrect. We go online, we Google our way to trying to figure out a problem. And home ownership is one of the things that you either aren't looking up as a millennial, or when you looking, you get overwhelmed with the information that you see online, because it's telling you all these numbers and how much money you need to save and all these things that make it seem like it's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. But I think that having more access to people like yourselves who are experts in the real estate industry and home ownership industry, being able to disseminate the information to us, or even to me, so I can go and tell other millennials. I think that we have a lack of information when it comes to home ownership. I ain't gonna lie, even for me, we think it's scary. We think do I really feel like sacrificing to save 20%? We thinking that you got to do all these things, and what I'm learning even is that you don't have to do all those things that you read online that tell you about how to buy a house.
Right. Well, a couple of things. You grew up in an age 2006, 07, 08 when we had the financial crisis. So at a young age, you're seeing your parents and friends and people losing homes, and so it's scary. Well, how did they get into this? I thought this was supposed to be the bastion of wealth, and people are losing their houses and stuff like that. So I can see you having those issues, and most millennials should have those issues. But the issue is that you've got to hire the right people on your team. And yes, I tell people that you can Google information and but I'm going to tell you the real deal. So as you said, you've got to go and hire an expert to come in and sit down and talk with you, like your group. We're going to have to change the mindset of home ownership. I'll give you an example. No one ever, and I sell homes to everyone, Asian, black, white, everybody. I've never had an Asian person ask me about lease purchase. I've never had a white person ask me about lease purchase. I've never had a Hispanic person ask me about lease purchase. But if I get questions, that is one of my number one questions from my people. I just want a lease purchase. And I can't figure it out, because most people don't buy the house that they lease purchase. And you pay a premium to be able to do that. So I think the education is really key. And when I say maybe the rappers should be rapping about buying a house, maybe the rappers should be talking about home ownership and building wealth, you know, not diamonds and cars and, you know, just the changing. Our black newspapers, the black media, maybe the black media should be talking about real estate.
Maybe so.
We should, if you pick up a Forward Times, you pick up a Defender, who I think are the two main black newspapers in this city, you will not find anything out about home ownership unless it's an issue of some sort or something happened, somebody been discriminated against or something. Rarely. No one is even writing columns, Tony, about it. So you're right. And I think you're being bombarded with information. We got to figure out how to bombard you with real estate information and homeowners information. And I think shows like this will help. But you got to get your people to look. We're on 1510, we're on 96.9, and we're on 1360 AM.
Yeah.
We go to church more than anything. 1360 AM is the gospel 1360 AM. So there are opportunities there, but let's, you know, let's get into some of your questions because you kind of given me the idea, but give me some more information here.
I think it would be great if we as millennials had a very basic understanding of why home ownership is so important. I think millennials may not understand the value of property, what it really means to own property, what it really means to vote in an area that you live in. Things like that don't really trigger us because we're so transient. We want to work at a place for 3 years, 4 years, and kind of just, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna move on to a different job and bounce from apartment to apartment, and that's just the way that it is right now. But why is home ownership so important?
Okay, I think the reason it is because it builds wealth. You've got to build wealth. I used to talk about home ownership about saving on taxes and building wealth. Now, because of the new tax laws for people who didn't vote, we got these new tax laws, and they've taken away the tax side of home ownership. And yeah, they gave you the interest deduction, but they put a cap of it of $10,000. But you have, if you're a couple, your allowance is $24,000. If you're single, it's $6,000. Or is it 24? It's 12. Well, if you got that sort of allowances on your deduction, the interest rate the tax deduction doesn't really, interest deduction doesn't mean anything. So those are some of the issues there. In regards to the pricing of homes and understanding the voting pattern of homes is that the reason you want to own a home is that stable. The incomes, the neighborhoods are stable. You bring businesses into your neighborhood. Crime is less. When everybody knows everybody, oh, you shouldn't be in this neighborhood. So all of that strengthens our neighborhoods. And when you have transient people who are in, they have no stake in the neighborhood. If you'll notice, Tony, all the black schools populations are dwindling.
That's true.
And we're talking about closing Yates, Wheatley, Willow Ridge, all these schools, because nobody going there anymore. The elementary schools are going because the people who have been transient through those communities, they never had a stake. You know, it bothers me that we don't have this, that there's no stake in this community. And it is important to live in a black neighborhood. But I think it's more important that we live in safe black neighborhoods where we don't have burglar bars on our houses, where that's not. I'll tell you a real quick story. I sold a house to a guy, and young guy, about your age, Tony, see it happens. And the first thing he told me was that, well, you know what, I'm gonna come back to this, but what I would like to do is take a quick break and we'll be right back with the Real Estate Corner. I'm your host, Shad Bogdan. You're listening to 96.9 FM and 1360 Gospel Station on KWWJ. Thinking about buying or selling, real estate can be a very complicated process. Finding one, how much can you afford? Get survey, put a home on the market, review the net sheets, taxes, advice on financing, homestead exemptions, advice on insurance, what kind of mortgage, inspections, considering offers, negotiations, submitting an offer, how good are the schools, down payment assistance, title insurance, home warranties, closing costs, final walkthrough. These are the pieces of the puzzle of home ownership. I'm the person who helps put it together and the glue that keeps it together. Give me a call, Shad Bargaining. Welcome back to the Real Estate Corner. You're listening here on KWWJ 1360 or 96.9, or you'll be watching me on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on Iconic TV 15.10 Digital. We've been talking with Tony Holmes, who's a millennial, and I've been wanting to find the inside of what's going on with millennials. And Tony agreed to come in and tell me what his generation is thinking and ask me a few questions in regards to home ownership. So he's interviewing me, I'm interviewing him. I started off before we took this break about a story, Tony, that I had. Young man bought a house from me, and the first thing he said, Shad, man, I thank you for being able to buy this house and helping me, but more importantly, can you tell me where I can get some burglar bars? And I said, well, why do you need burglar bars? He said, well, I grew up with them. That's the thing. My mom's house, my dad's house, my uncle's house, everybody got burglar bars. I say, but you live out in Missouri City, police are right down the street, neatly. But in his mind, it's a culture thing that we do, burglar bars. And so that plays into the point of why our home ownership rate is low, is because, as you said earlier, 20% down. Am I going to have the credit to be able to make this happen? How do I get this done? And so he was able to achieve it, but then that bad culture came right in because he felt, because his neighborhood was predominantly probably black, that he needs some burglar bars. I doubt very seriously if he had been in a predominantly white neighborhood, he would have mentioned burglar bars to me. So you mentioned a few things of keeping your generation from home, as knowing the process. Well, the process starts by hiring a realtor.
Okay.
When you get ready to buy a house, there are lots of people giving you advice. Your mom bought a house, dad bought a house, uncle, but most in our community buy houses most of the time one time. And what happened 20 years ago is different than what's going to happen today.
True.
There's some sense of how it works, but the inner working of it is all different most of the time. The boundaries are there because that's in every transaction, but you get it appraised, you get it inspected, you check it out, you got to go through the loan process. Those things are normal all through the process, but back in the day, we had one-page contracts, now we got 20. So you need a realtor expert to come in and help you and sit down and go over the process. The other reason about property values, what makes property values go strong? Are strong schools and low crime. And that's really, really important that people understand you got to have safe neighborhoods. People don't want to live where everybody's hanging out on the corner, people sitting down there, they're loitering. Nobody wants to do that. No. And so you want to be able, if you stopped at the Exxon at a certain point, you want to be able to go use the restroom if you got to go in, oh, it's broke. You know what I'm saying? So neighborhoods strength is really important, and we've got to demand it. We've got to demand that the grocery stores are at top shape. We've got them, and or not, we don't shop there. So buying a home, having somebody there, you have a stake in the community. The other thing you mentioned about voting. We've got to start voting. We can change a lot of things if we would just vote. And it's essential. And then let me tell you the most important, it's not about voting for the president. It's about voting local elections, the judges, city council people. Those are the people who actually affect. If you live in the county judges, the county commissioners, those guys are the ones that really do affect what's going on. And so when Tony said, the voting side, if you live in the community, you're going to be concerned about what's going on. Getting to know the police people who patrol your neighborhood. Going to the mayor and says, we want neighborhood police people in our neighborhood. We want people riding bikes and walking the beat. We don't have to accept what we've been accepting in this community.
Yeah.
So those are the three things: that the process, hire somebody who knows the process, somebody who can recommend a lender, and we tend to roll to people because if you don't know the process, you think this is simple. So we hire people who sold one house this year. Just because you got your license, Tony, doesn't mean you know how to drive. You know what I'm saying? So just because you're able to pass the exam,
That's good.
you know, it doesn't mean that you know how to sell real estate or know how to implement the process. So, but process, hire a good realtor.
And you brought up process a couple times, and I wanted to ask you a question about the process because you mentioned how millennials are one of the most educated generation by standard of college education, degrees, and all that stuff. Well, with the increase in college education, we also have an increase in student loan debt too.
Right.
So I think that for millennials, the student loan debt is definitely scary when it comes to is my student loan debt gonna hinder me from buying a house? I got this much student loan debt. Should I just work on paying this down? Because Dave Ramsey said to pay off all my debt before I purchase a home. So things like that come up.
Good
so,
question.
You know, what about student loan debt?
Well, let me tell you, that's probably, other than credit, that's probably the next prohibitive that's keeping millennials from purchasing homes. First of all, when you get in that debt and you got student loan debt, most of it is almost like a house note in itself. A lot of the students are not consolidating their loans, and you should be able to work on paying that debt off. But most importantly, you got to have a place to stay. So let's just say we took the advantage of working on that debt, like Dave Ramsey says. Home prices have gone up, the interest rate has gone up, so the cost of is steady rising on you. My feeling is if you need to buy a 1-bedroom condo or a 2-bedroom condo, you buy that, you stay there a while, then move to the next level. And so my feeling is that the student loan debt is a serious issue. We probably would have President Hillary Clinton if Bernie hadn't gotten in and said he's gonna wave it away, you know, and everybody started voting for him because it's a huge debt. And things have changed, and it goes back to one thing about voting. When I was in school, I went through college on grants. So when I came out of college, I had no debt because I went through grants. With my kids, I paid for their college. So parents can't pay for their children's college. So what we have to do is minimize the amount of debt that we get, stop living off the loans as though they were living, right. So I'm going to every concert, I'm going to this, I'm got a new car. You know, we're gonna have to rearrange our thought process about it. The other thing in regards to that is you got to pay that debt. You cannot buy a house if your student loan is in default, period. So you continue not being able to purchase a house. You continue having issues there if you don't pay the student loan. I lost a deal a few months back where the lady thought she had consolidated, she was a millennial, she thought she had consolidated all her loans. Well, she uses one name here, uses another name there. When they actually see a driver's license, they went back and had to check and realized there was a student loan debt that she didn't know anything about because she thought she had consolidated them all, and it knocked her out of buying a house. And she was extremely upset. It should not have happened, but it does. So I think once you get out, you go in and try to consolidate those student loans. And I think when you're out there millennials, when you're getting this student loan debt, get what you need. Don't overdo it. That may mean that you might need to get you a side job. I worked 40 hours a week when I was in college.
Really?
40 hours a week.
Wow.
And still graduated in 4 years and got out. It can be done. So, you know, it's just about adjusting out and going. And so, but student loans is a big problem. And I think your generation is dealing with it best they can. It may be a point that you go to a job who says, if I hire you, I'm going to get rid of your student loan. May not be the highest paying job, but it eliminates a debt which allows your income to be more accessible.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, you know, student loans is another thing, but then what about credit scores? How does that impact the home buying process?
Well, Tony, back in '90, 293, I had a guy come on my radio show. Bill McBride was a loan officer. He said, Shad, credit scoring is going to change the mortgage industry. I said, well, what do you mean? He says, car dealers have been doing it for years. Banks and mortgage companies are going to be doing it. The credit scoring is a huge issue simply because they are now, the lower your credit score, the higher the interest rate they're going to give you. So you can get a loan at 580 credit score.
Really?
You can. You can do an FHA loan at 580 credit score. I'm getting lenders calling me right now telling me 580 credit score, I can get you a loan. What requires is more money down, a higher interest rate. Now the thought of, well, I'll take this higher interest rate. Well, once you get things straight, then you refinance it and get it done. Another quick story. I bought a house back in the 80s. First house I bought was at age 18. So I know you can buy a house if you put your mind to it.
Yeah.
All right. Second house I bought, interest rates were high. They were at 11%. I was so happy to get that 11% because some people were paying 18 and 20 on homes. And I refinanced that later and dropped it to 6 and saved almost $600 a month on my monthly payment.
Wow.
So sometimes you take the risk. And you say, I'm going to stay, get everything together, and then get out there and get it done. So 580, you can get a loan. 620, 640 is what you need for down payment assistance. And there are lots of first-time home buyer programs out there for Millennials. City of Houston has a program, kind of difficult to use, but if you got patience of Job, you may be able to make this work. $25,000 grant for first-time home buyers. Seth program, Texas Department of Housing, T-Shack, all these programs are there. That's why it's so important that you hire the right lender and you hire the right realtor. Don't get into this friends. I went to church with Joe. I'm going to use Joe because we go to church together. You're making the biggest financial decision of your life. So you hire the best people. If you were going in for heart surgery, would you use one that does it every other weekend or you want one that does it every day?
He's good.
I'm just sharing with you my time of experiences that it's about experience. And then if you got a brother who just got his license, ask the realtor, will you pay my brother a referral fee, but I'm going to use you. So most of them are going to do it, Tony. But it's really important you get the right team together and you interview realtors. You sit down and interview them. And I always tell people when I'm doing a radio show that ask a realtor a question you know the answer to already. If they don't answer the right way you know it, then you don't use them.
No, you don't need to use them.
So you don't ask questions you don't know. You ask questions that you know, and then you make a decision based on that. Because everybody's not in it. Everybody's not in it for your best interest. And I wish I could say that. There are 130,000 realtors in Houston. I say 130,000 in Texas real estate agents, probably 160 real estate agents. In Houston alone, there are 34,000 realtors who have decided that they're going to follow a certain code of ethics. Everybody who gets a license doesn't mean they are a realtor. So there's a difference there. We have to constantly keep getting updated. We follow a code of ethics on how we're going to deal with you, how we're going to handle your business, certain things that we're going to do. If you're in another transaction with another realtor, I'm not going to try to get in and steal that business. It's against the code of ethics. So what you do, you interview them, ask them questions, and if you get a realtor who says, I can do the loan too, I'd be wary of that. Doing mortgages is very difficult. Doing loans, handling the transaction is very difficult. And even for me, I only do one thing, and my job is to get that house done. And I try to learn as much about the process so that I can help you. So I try to learn the loan process. And so it's really important. And don't always think the name brand is the best place to go.
Also, what the most popular places aren't necessarily just
right.
Okay.
On the internet, because your generation is the internet generation. Let me go Google it. And I'm going to tell you, the higher fees are higher on the internet than they are locally. Okay? So, guys, we're going to take a quick break. You've been listening to the Real Estate Corner. My name is Shad Bogdan. Let me give the phone numbers out again. 281-837-2222. That's 281-837-2222. My name is Shad Bogdan. My guest in the studio is my Millennium, Tony Holmes. Tony's here to give us some insight. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the Real Estate Corner. Thinking about buying or selling, real estate can be a very complicated process. Finding one, how much can you afford? Get survey, put a home on the market, review the net sheets, taxes, advice on financing, homestead exemptions, advice on insurance, what kind of mortgage, inspections, considering offers, negotiations, submitting an offer, how good are the schools, down payment assistance, title insurance, home warranties, closing costs, final walkthrough. These are the pieces of the puzzle of home ownership. I'm the person who helps put it together and the glue that keeps it together. Give me a call, Shad Bargaining. Welcome back to the Real Estate Corner. I'm your host, Shad Bargaining. If you're looking for a great title company, you need to call American Title at 5802 Val Verde. The escrow officer now is named Charlene Clancy. She's got a great team, Ron and Eric. If you speak Spanish, Eric is there. They work with you to help get your deal closed. Their name is Charlene Clancy. She's the escrow officer. She's got a great team. American Title, 713-784-0006. And before we go, I've got to talk about my favorite hardware store, Dixie Hardware. If you need plumbing, electrical, paint, they've got it all at Dixie Hardware. Right at Cullen and OST, go to Dixie Hardware. They've got everything there. And the thing that's most important that they've got there is service at Dixie Hardware. So both of my sponsors are big about service. That's why they're sponsoring my show. Tony, you know, we talked a lot and I've given you a lot of my information and we talked about it, but you're really supposed to be interviewing me, Tony. and I guess I've done what I do sometimes, take over.
So much knowledge, that's the thing.
So let's go through some of your questions. Okay. Tell me the inside of the Millennials.
Okay. So, you know, I was reading something recently, and they talked about how, you know, when you I guess back in the day, when you would make it, it was leaving the hood, right? And so, you know, here we are now in a situation where we're responsible now to help the areas that are gentrifying, the third wards, the fifth wards, all the places that are, the Acres Homes, you know, places in Houston that are now back on the rise. So whose responsibility was that when it was you supposed to leave the hood to be successful, and then now we tasked with moving back into the hood to stop the gentrification that's happening, or at least help it not be so bad for the black community.
All right. Well, let's keep in mind, most urban areas are all close in because of the Great Migration when blacks and minorities moved into cities from the South. So whether you're on the East or the West Coast, you're going to see a lot of urban, us around a lot of urban areas. And so when you were at a point of segregated where you could only stay in one part of the city, and now you've gotten an opportunity that you can live anywhere, we're going to go out and live anywhere. Back in those days, you could be a maid and you live next door to a doctor, or you live next door to a dentist or a teacher. Where now in our community, we're able to expand out. I believe that the responsibility is to go back and make the neighborhood safe and sound. I don't think you just go back to the hood and live in a dangerous neighborhood. And so the only way to make that safe and sound is we get neighborhood groups, civic clubs, people that are concerned. Then we get businesses who are in the hood to support our schools. So we can get good schools. I used to think that at certain elementary schools on the other side of town, that the schools had more money than we had in our neighborhood. What I found out, Tony, through education, is that the businesses in the area are putting money back in the schools. One of the parents may have worked at Apple, so he brought in Apple computers. So What we've got to do is that our people who are in business have to give back to the community much more. I'm a business person, been a business person for many, many years, but I think we take more than we give back. You understand? And we assume that you should be shopping with me just because I'm black. And that's why I bring up about Dixie Hardware, and I continue to tell about service, because Dixie Hardware ice is colder than Home Depot's ice. Because when you walk in, somebody's trying to help you. You see what I'm saying? Not pointing you over in that direction. So I think as a business community, we're going to have to save the mindset. It is a shame in our community that these little league football players and baseball players and the little girls in the little cheerleader suits sitting on the corner with the football helmets begging. We're teaching our generation to beg. Why can't the businesses, the gas station, the local store sponsor these people? You know, why can't we get that sort of business? The other problem that we have in our community, people who make it don't feel obligated to come back and give.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. Galveston came back because George Mitchell was from Galveston, and he went and put money back in our community. So the people who grew up in Third Ward should be giving back. I'll give you an example of where it's happening right now. Gerald Womack gives back in the community. He lives in the Third Ward area, grew up here, but he gives back. Mayberry lives in Third Ward, gives back to the community. So those are two examples, but not enough examples that I've got there. And if you're out there, you need to call me and let me know, and I'll mention you. But what I'm saying is that we gotta invest back in our communities. I live in First Colony. I saw a sign the other day in First Colony, I'd say the other day, but a while back, and it was a black developer. And I know he was from the hood. He wasn't developing in Third Ward or Fifth Ward or First Ward. He was developing out in First Colony. There's nothing wrong with that, but we've got to have a personal growth to give back. We need to do what Kirby John did with Corinthian Point with Windsor Village. That's a perfect example of how a community, a church, got involved. But it's not enough Kirby Johns out there. What Bishop Dixon doing out at Community Faith Church, what he's doing. We've got to be able to give back into the community and invest. There's a group called, they go out and rebuild homes, okay? So when I say rebuild homes, if you're a senior and your house is falling apart, you can get on this list and they'll come fix your home for free. There are other people outside of our community doing that. Rarely do you see a black church helping.
Yeah, getting involved.
Yeah, getting involved. How many churches have housing ministries? I would probably say maybe 10, 20%. So we've got to be able to really invest in our communities. We got to be willing to make them safe and sound. So
you're saying that it's more of a collective responsibility than it is for a generation, for it is a particular person. It starts with the businesses, to the residents, to really getting involved with the schools locally.
Right.
It's more of a collective. Okay.
I wouldn't put it on the generation side. I will tell you that Anglos like moving back into the hood.
Yeah.
And they are the ones that are changing the hood because they're moving back in because it's convenient. Now when I meet a young person, I don't want to live over there. No, I don't want to live over there. I need to go live where shopping is, where I can walk into the restaurants. But if you come back in and work it, you can bring those restaurants back.
You can.
Yeah.
And there's a thing that people say that, we scared of our own people.
Right.
You brought up burglar bars earlier. People don't want to live in the hood because they afraid. But it's all about communication, just getting the opportunity to talk to somebody and hearing their story. Everybody got a story.
Right.
I wanted to add something else as well. You brought up how when people could move, they moved because we were stuck in this one area of town. And now it seems like everybody wants to move to the outskirts as far as our people, our culture. We move to the outskirts of Houston, and then we leave the hoods and the wards to other races, to the Anglos, to the whites. Right,
they're doing that.
Yeah, and so what do you see the future of those neighborhoods being if not enough of us get involved? Will it turn into another Heights, or what will?
I see them turning into another Heights. I will tell you, it is really key that neighborhoods are diverse. And I will tell you, the stats say that neighborhoods that are diverse prosper better than neighborhoods that are all white or all black. So we've got to have the diversity in the neighborhoods. I think it's important to have that our people and our kids see everybody. you know, and I think that's really important. But I think mostly important is that we all need to work together to make this thing work. And people used to come to me and say, why all the Koreans or Asian people got stores in our neighborhood? Because it's cheap to buy.
Yeah.
It's not, they'd have them out in First Colony if it was cheap to buy, you know, but it's cheaper in our neighborhoods. And so, and the other thing that we've got to do, which is a sidebar in our 3rd wards and 5th wards, we've got to learn how to convey property. Our people die without wills. Our people don't even write things down.
Yeah.
And so when somebody passes away, Tony, without a will, the government determines how that property is split up. Yeah. And if you got a kid here, a kid here, a kid here, or kids fight, and people seem to think that me and my brother and my sister, we're good, we're never gonna have an issue. When money comes into play, all of that changes.
Yeah.
I don't care what family. That's happening in my family.
Yeah.
You that are listening to me, you are looking at me, it's happening in your family.
Happening in mine.
Yeah. So we've got to learn to convey property. So if you're listening to us and you live in those neighborhoods, because when you see a vacant lot in 5th Ward, the reason it's vacant and nothing happening is because the title's messed up. So we're going to have to work. And you had asked earlier, we depend a lot on the government in our community. You've got to get people to start investing. Why do we have one black bank in the whole city of Houston and there are 50 Asian banks? And we are 3 times, 10 times the population. Yeah. Explain that to me.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, what is that black bank doing in the community to grow, to make me want to be there and make other people come back and say, hey, we're going to support other black banks?
Yeah, I have an account there, and I'll leave it there. You know, I'll leave it right there. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that as black business people, to change our communities around, we're going to have to step it up. Yeah. We're going to have to give back. We take more than we give back. And I think the people who are making the money, those who've been blessed with the money, much is expected from you once you get that money. Give back in the community.
Yeah. Well, you know, you talked about the process of how millennials can actually purchase a home. We talked about the reasons why millennials should purchase a home. What do you want to see? If you was a charge that I could take back to the millennial community to tell them, Shad Bogany said we need to do X as millennials. What is that X that we need to do?
Well, millennials, my X would be is educate yourself, make home ownership a #1 priority. Okay. What we're seeing with millennials right now is that millennials are now purchasing homes, and the reason they're beginning to purchase homes now is because they are getting married. They are realizing living in that 300 square foot apartment ain't gonna make it anymore, and they're wanting smaller places because they want to live. They don't want to work. In my generation, we live to work. In your generation, working is a side thing. We're living for fun, you know. So I think it's a change that we're going to have to work on, Tony. If I could take back, educate yourself, pick the right people to have a smooth transaction. Nothing's easy. Even with me, we have curves and ups and downs and bumps. But it's about how you handle them and how you work together. I think we, as millennials, home ownership, after you got that degree, should be the next thing. Even if you got to drive a hoopty, you drive that hoopty until you get that house. Because that hoopty or that BMW that you just got just went down $10,000 depreciated. We tend to put our money in depreciating assets. And it always, I kind of chuckle to myself because I meet young people who got the right idea about investing in real estate, but they would rather go buy a house or invest in real estate to rent out versus buying somewhere a place to stay. See, to me, you buy the place to stay, then you move there to investing in real estate. Get an idea of understanding paying your taxes. Understand you got to get insurance. You got to protest your taxes. All of those things come into play. And so if we're going to make any changes in our community, we've got to start investing in our communities. And I see nothing wrong with gentrification if it's good gentrification, and be a part of that gentrification. And if you start voting, you can get people to look at different ways of making homes affordable. We're doing a housing summit on June 20th about affordable housing, and it's just a wrap session on what we can do. Maybe we start looking at tiny houses. Maybe we start looking at duplexes and condos. In New York, they have co-ops.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to, everything's not about a single family home. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to change our process, and it's always been about single family because we had so much land. But now with the cost of land, we're gonna have to start looking at density and things of that nature. And we need to pay attention. The mayor just passed a deal called District 19, Law 19 or whatever they want to call it. It's going to raise your house 2 feet out of the flood zone. It just added cost to the house, so it's become making affordable less. We're going to take a quick break. My name is Shad Bogany. I'm here with Tony Holmes. Tony is my millennium, giving us some insight. I've given him some insight. We're going to continue this conversation in just a moment. Thinking about buying or selling, real estate can be a very complicated process. Finding one, how much can you afford? Get survey, put a home on the market, review the net sheets, taxes, advice on financing, homestead exemptions, advice on insurance, what kind of mortgage, inspections, considering offers, negotiations, submitting an offer, how good are the schools, down payment assistance, title insurance, home warranties, closing costs, final walkthrough. These are the pieces of the puzzle of home ownership. I'm the person who helps put it together and the glue that keeps it together. Give me a call, Shad Bogany. Welcome back to the Real Estate Corner. I'm your host, Shad Bogany. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, you should not make a decision without calling the Shad Bogany team at 713-667-1000. Give my team a call. Go out and visit our website, www.shadboganyteam.com. You can find videos on different places of the city. I even have consumer videos on my website that teach you how to buy a house, how to remodel, all of those types of things on our website, www.shadboganyteam.com. You can also follow me on Facebook. Lots of information that we give out on Facebook. But if you're looking to buy a home, whether it's a new home, resale home, give us a call at 713-667-1000. My guests in the studio tonight have been Tony Holmes. Tony has been giving us a millennium perspective, and we've been sharing ideas tonight on what's going on in the millennial community. I've been trying to show him or explain why he should be buying a house. And now I want to ask him, Tony, tell me what it's going to take for you to be able to purchase a home.
Well, for me, as we talk,
and when I say you, I really mean in general,
right,
your generation of purchase.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that earlier as you were talking, because if you look at the way things are today, if you look at the landscape of society, everything is plug and play. Right. Super easy, super conventional. I can order my groceries online and go pick them up or have them delivered to me.
Right.
I can do all these things. I can fly to a city, book a flight on my phone, get there, order clothes, have them delivered. I can do the whole nine, book a hotel, all that stuff. But purchasing a home ain't like that. And neither is voting, which are two staples of the community that will continue to impact generations to come, for now and the future.
Well, let me take on one, internet. Most of the thing about buying houses, when you try to do everything on the internet, it normally doesn't go correctly.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of interaction with the realtor. And you can't text and email everything. It's got to be some on the phone talking.
Oh, I agree.
Because what happens is that you can misread a text, misread an email.
Read body language.
Yeah, so real estate is about relationships.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, the people who are selling the $1 million homes ain't the best realtors in town.
Yeah.
They're doing that because they got the right relationship.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay, so everything's about relationships.
Yeah.
So when the internet came involved, because I've been around, and people would always say the internet's going to take the realtors out. They're going to go like the the travel people did. It hasn't happened because our relationship, you need that interpersonal belly-to-belly talking, going over contracts. I was telling my team the other day is that now you can digitally sign contracts, but there's an issue. When you digitally sign, nobody's explaining what you're signing. So we've got to change and be more open, maybe give you a copy of the contract early so you can read through it before we put anything on it, you know. And so I think that's in your end is us getting out, reaching out to your generation. Maybe more millennials need to become realtors and learn the process because they understand you. Because you can make a good career in real estate. If you follow what your company tells you to follow and you have the right support, you can be successful in this business. So how many millennials actually join real estate? A lot of them will do if their parents are in the business or they've got a relative in the business. But how many people come out of college and say, I'm going to be a realtor? Not many. No. And you know why? Because it's not a salary involved. But you make much more money selling real estate than your salary if you're good at what you do, if you learn details. So in regards to the voting side, I can't emphasize more how important it is to vote. Voteless people is a hopeless people. And I say this over and over again. You got to learn to vote. We're getting what we get right now because we didn't vote.
Absolutely.
The other day I posted something on my Facebook page that it was the lowest Democratic turnout in 100 years. 100 years.
100 years.
100 years. And then we got somebody going up against Abbott who is totally beatable with the right candidate. He's beatable. Don't care how much money he got. He's beatable with the right candidate. I don't know if the candidate we got can beat him. But only 400 and some thousand people came out to vote across the state.
Wow.
You know, so sometimes, and let me say this, I'm not in the Democratic Party. I'm not in the Republican Party. I'm in the Realtor Party. That's the party that I'm in. If you're helping private property rights and real estate, I'm in your party. Don't care whether you got an R or a D. That's what I look at. And I don't support anybody who don't support real estate. Not talking it, saying you're going to support it, but actually supporting it. And so what I'm asking people to do, vote in your local elections. If you're concerned about affordable housing, when you meet a politician or somebody's on the stump, what are you going to do about affordable housing? I can go over and over again. Our last show, we talked a lot about somebody that we all voted for. A lot of listeners and viewers voted for, but hasn't shown anything in affordable housing other than a concept. So, you know, my thought is voting is important as we go through this process.
And so, you know, when I mean is with the digital world we live in, it's not. I don't think that for millennials that we have to have an easy pathway to purchasing a home.
Okay.
I think that what's going to have to happen is it's going to have to the whole process or the end result of purchasing a home is going to have to be more attractive to the audience of millennials. I'm going to purchase a home. Me and my wife are looking right now, but for the landscape of the generation, you brought up millennials purchase homes when they get married and things start to happen. Life gets more serious. But then you got to peel back the layer of marriage. How many millennials are even getting married in today's society? Is marriage even attractive today for millennials? Which a lot of my friends, they tell me that it's not. I'm more on the minority side of being married in my late 20s compared to a lot of my friends. So it's a landscape of just layers and layers of fabric that has to be pulled back to get to the root cause of how we purchase homes. And I think that making it attractive and showing how for your personal economy and your personal wallet, how purchasing a home will help you in that endeavor. Because no matter what it is, married or not, money is still attractive to regardless of what generation that you're in.
I agree with you, Tony. Let me give you another statistic here, the cost of renting versus buying. The percentage of income needed to afford a medium rent, historically 25.8%. Medium rent, 28.9%. The percentage of income needed to afford a medium home, 21%. 15% in a medium home. So let me tell you, if your generation or those who are out listening to us don't understand anything else, it is cheaper to own a home in Houston than it is to rent one.
Yeah.
So if you bragging that you're paying $2,500 a month, $1,800 a month rent, you shouldn't tell anybody. Shh. You shouldn't tell anyone that. Don't brag about it, because that tells me that you are violating financial responsibility. You shouldn't do that. I'm just saying. I'm just telling you, 15.7% is on that. If you're renting or thinking it's going to cost you more to rent. You just asked me when we started the show earlier that, hey, I've got some things we're working on. I can tell you already, next year it'll cost you more to buy a house than it is today. Interest rates are now at a 7-year high, Tony. 7-year high. See, during your lifetime, you've been looking at 3s and 4s and 6s. What I tell you about my second house I bought, it was 11%.
Yeah, then it went down, yeah.
So, and the most important thing of purchasing a home is the interest rate. Down payment, I can get you in a house for 3%, 3.5%. As Tony talked earlier, you don't need 20%. So what I'm sharing with you, what should motivate you, that if you are renting, you're paying too much. That should motivate you. Now you got, once you take that savings, now you have money for college. You take that extra money, put it for vacation, then tutoring our kids when they need tutoring, all those things. But we are always paying the most. We're paying the most on everything. We pay the most when we buy a car. We pay the most when we buy a house. We've got to change this deal. You know?
Yeah, and I guess for those millennials that are watching and listening, I mean, knowing this information that you're giving us today, we have a charge to be the leaders in the forefront in the process of buying homes and being more financially responsible, because that's a big part of it too, is the influence level. If I'm millennial and I'm doing good things out there in the community and people see that I done bought a house, maybe that'll attract 5 more people to buy a house.
I agree with you totally. Every church sermon that goes up, Pastor, you need to raise up. Who bought a house this week? Who bought a house this month? That's what you do. And then you highlight them in the church bulletin. They have invested in their community. And so that's how you do it. You got to we got to reward that 42% and let people know that they rare. Okay. And and I think, and I've had people, I sold a house, Tony, to a 90-year-old lady. And you know what she told me? She said, I always wanted to buy a house before I left this earth. She said, and she took a 30-year loan, Tony. She says, I don't really care how what happens. But I want to be able to own a home. And she did. And she lived about 3 years in that home, bought a 2-story home. And my first question to her, boy, you gonna go? I don't need to go upstairs. Kitchen, bathroom down here. I got everything right here. I sleep on the sofa. This is mine. And that was important. So I'm encouraging millennials, X and XG, or what is it?
Gen
X. X. See, okay, you got it. Gen X. All you guys that go out and try to buy a home, it is a beautiful thing to be able to paint your walls, change your outside, plant flowers, garden. You know, you want to save money, garden in your backyard. Go and plant your flowers. You want to knock a wall out on the inside and change it? Do it. You know, it gives you freedom, is what it does. It gives you freedom. And I have never met anybody, Tony Holmes, who told me they hate they bought a house.
I believe that.
Right? And I've never met anybody who says, I can't wait to grow up and be a renter. I've never met somebody who said, I just can't wait to be a renter when I get out of college. You know, I'm sharing with you guys, we can make a change. It starts with people like Tony here, who sees it. He's trying to spread the wealth. And I just thank you, Tony, for coming in. And giving us some insight. I hope the realtors who are listening get an insight, because everything is telling us, when we read, they telling us that your generation don't want to buy right now. And what we're learning, though, because that was from research, that your generation is actually buying homes at a fast rate. At a fast rate. And so I appreciate you coming in and talking with us. Any question of me, any last question that you had? I mean, we went all over the place, and I appreciate you coming in and talking with us. And hopefully we'll bring some of those people that you're mentoring who have bought and get some insight from them on why they bought and how easy it was. Because as you said earlier, the unknown is scary.
Yeah, it is. And I think that, as you mentioned, I appreciate you having me on the show, first of all. But, you know, for us as the millennial community, we bring millennials together with our organization to make sure that we are spreading good news and good information, and information that is actually practical and going to help millennials get to the next level. And you can visit our website at www.themillennialcommunity.com and check out what's coming up for us. We actually have an event in June where we're going to bring in an expert from Avenue CDC.
Okay.
He's going to come in and talk to us about home ownership. So we love to get you guys involved in your company and more of your
You'll get the real
agency.
deal from me.
Yeah.
So if you want me to come out and talk, you'll get the real deal from me, because I'm doing it. Avenue C is a great group, but I think I'm going to bring it and tell you what's going on. I've sold over 3,000 homes. I've seen every situation. Every time I think I've seen something and I'm good, something new come up.
Yeah.
And one thing I'll tell you for you new entrepreneurs out there, keep in mind, if you're writing all your income off, you know, every time I do this show, I'm going to give you a tip. If you're writing all your income off and you don't own a home, you ain't going to be buying one. Because when you're self-employed, your determination is what your net income is, not your gross income. So I'm just letting you know, you got to watch that. Even if you got to pay some taxes, look at the long run. And so you've been listening and talking and calling us here on the Real Estate Corner. I'm your host, Shad Bargaining. We're here every Tuesday from 6:15 to 7:15. Once again, I want to thank Tony Holmes for coming in, sharing some things with us. And Tony, thank you so much. I can't tell you, I've got a great producer, and she this was her idea.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank her for doing it. I'll see you next Tuesday from 6:15 to 7:15. And once again, thank you so much for watching and listening to the Real Estate Corner. Thinking about buying or selling, real estate can be a very complicated process. Finding one, how much can you afford? Get survey, put a home on the market, review the net sheets, taxes, advice on financing, homestead exemptions, advice on insurance, what kind of mortgage, inspections, considering offers, negotiations, submitting an offer, how good are the schools, down payment assistance, title insurance, home warranties, closing costs, final walkthrough. These are the pieces of the puzzle of home ownership. I'm the person who helps put it together and the glue that keeps it together. Give me a call, Shad Bargaining.